represented our school with excellence on traveling ministry teams. Matt Souza is a passionate worshiper. He's beloved by somebody special here in school. He is a generous person. He is a very helpful person. And let's give him a warm welcome to the North Point Bible
Start off with my thank yous. Really, I mean, every single person in this room, whether it be the faculty, staff, friends, and family, and really everyone I've come in contact with the past 4 years, in some way, whether big or small, you played a role in making me who I am today. Whether it's been something I've seen you do, maybe it wasn't even a word you've spoken, but something I've watched you do, it's impacted me, and for that I say thank you. I want to quote some of the, in my opinion, what I think some of the best lyrics ever penned by man. And it's by a band called Boston, and the lyrics go like this: Amanda, I love you. They're real lyrics, you can look them up. And I had Amanda sit here with me today because today, in my opinion, these are the seats where the dean, the president's seat, these are seats of honor. And today, Amanda, I want to honor you and have you sit up here with me because I love you and I thank you. But on a serious note, the past 4 years, yeah, you want to learn some words of wisdom, man? Any of you are planning on not giving a shout out to your lady? There's a saying I have for you: happy wife, happy life. That is right. Amen. I learned that from Brother Monroe. That's right. But on a serious note, these past 4 years, they've been an honor. They've been a privilege. I've learned so much. But they've been very challenging. And when I say challenging, I don't necessarily mean academically, which they have. I don't mean financially, which, trust me, it has been. But I mean more so that, especially standing right here in this place where many great preachers have stood, I look around the room and I see such talent. I see such anointings, I see all these different personalities. And it's not that I feel like I'm not called, like Alex spoke about last week, but sometimes I think because some of you are just so overqualified that I feel underqualified. Sometimes I think, well, I'm never going to get up here and preach like Matthias. I mean, who has a senior sermon with an altar call, you know? I'm never going to be able to do that. You know, sometimes I lead worship, but I can never lead worship like Amanda or Craig or Tasha or any of the worship leaders of this school. You know, I'm never going to be like those people. And unfortunately, sometimes we get stuck in this mindset, all of us together, whether it be out in the world or in places we work, but even people in this room, we get stuck in this mindset that we need to be like someone else if we're going to be used by God. And sometimes we get stuck in this idea that I need to be more like this or more like that. Or sometimes we really think that if we could just walk in the pair of shoes that belong to somebody else, then finally that's when God is going to be able to use us for the kingdom. And I want to speak to you today under the title, The Wrong Pair of Shoes. I want to speak to you today about being comfortable with who God has called you to be. Honestly, bro, you're blind and you're one of the best musicians I've ever seen. Praise God for that, you know? When I see him playing guitar, I want to talk to you today about being comfortable with your gifts, your talents, and your personalities. Because when you try to fit in the shoes that belong to somebody else, when you try to fit into the wrong pair of shoes, you may be able to walk, but you'll never be able to run.
All right.
Come on. I'm going to be reading today out of 1 Samuel 17, starting at verse 38, reading out of 40. Then Saul dressed David in his own tunic. He put a coat of armor on him and a bronze helmet on his head. David fastened his sword over the tunic and tried walking around, but he was not used to them. I cannot go in these, he said to Saul, because I'm not used to them. So he took them off. Then he took his staff in his hand, chose 5 smooth stones from the stream. He put them in his pouch and his shepherd's bag, with his sling in his hand. He then approached the Philistine. See, here David, at this point in his life, is probably about to approach one of the biggest tasks he's ever faced. He's about to go kill the giant Philistine Goliath. But see, David, he thought, you know what, maybe I'm not good enough, because there was someone beside him named Saul who was like, David, you're never going to be able to take on Goliath unless you wear my sword. Unless you take on my armor, you're never going to be able to do it. And some of us today are listening to the people around us that are saying, you're never going to be able to do this, you're never going to be able to do that, unless you wear a different pair of shoes. Unless you act like this, unless you pray loud or like Cedric Sangos so everyone can hear you from the 1st and 3rd floor and in your room. You know? Unless you preach like Matthias or do things like that, you're never going to amount to anything. And we think that we need to change who God has created us to be in order to be effective. And I'm here to tell you that that's not true. I'm here to tell you that God has called you to be who you are. He doesn't call you to be like anybody else. He's gifted you with your own set of talents, your own set of abilities, and your own personality. And you better use it for His glory. Don't try to think you need to be like someone else. Sometimes you think, oh, well, if I was just smart like Dr. Howell and could teach Pauline theology, which I can't even fathom, then maybe I could be used for the kingdom. And see, for a second, David, he fell into that lie, and he put on David's armor. And some of us, we think just like David, because David was like, you know what? Saul, you're a king. I'm a shepherd boy. What do I know? I should listen to you. And some of you are too busy listening to the kings around you. You need to start listening to what the real king is saying about you. That you need to put on your own shoes, and it's ready to go to battle. I think of my fiancée, Amanda, you know. If some of you know her, she's very introverted, kind of shy, and she doesn't really react very well to social stimulation. She doesn't, but I love her. But she's an anointed worship leader, right? How many of you guys love her worship on Thursday night? But throughout her life, she's had people criticize her. And I mean, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that all criticism is wrong, just start ignoring what everyone's saying. But people have sometimes said things about her that kind of deny who God's made her to be. Oh, you know what, you're too introverted to be a good worship leader. You're too quiet. If you just prayed deeper prayers in between your songs, then maybe you'd be a little bit better. But what if Amanda were to listen to those? What if Amanda, before getting up to the piano on Thursdays to lead worship, decided, you know what, everybody's right. I'm going to put on those other pair of shoes. I'm going to do what everyone says because, I mean, they must know better than me. Some of them are older than I am. And what if, can you just imagine if she got to the piano on a Thursday morning with her new pair of shoes on, got to the piano, grabbed the mic, walked center stage, and was like, I feel the spirit of spectatorism in this place. You know? That wouldn't work. Why? Because those are good pairs of shoes. Those are good pairs of shoes. And I mean, can you imagine if she did that? She'd probably look a little bit like this. Because see, these shoes are a size 13, I'm a size 9. These are clearly way too big. I mean, they don't even match my outfit. They just look ridiculous. And I did some research on professional runners, what they look for in their shoes before they buy them. And it may seem pretty simple, but they just make sure that they fit. They can't be too big, they can't be too tight, too wide, or too slim. They have to fit just right. Because even if it's centimeters off, it'll hinder them from running as fast as they possibly can. And that's what's happening. We're wearing the wrong shoes. And when it's time to take on things like Goliath, when it's time to do the big things that God has called you to do, you're going to trip over yourself because your shoes don't fit. You're never going to be able to do it. But the thing is, God is calling you, and I've said this over and over and over again. I'm trying to get it in your minds. God's calling you to be you. He's not calling you to be anywhere else. Because David understood if he was going to kill Goliath, he was going to have to be in his A game. He was going to have to put on his right pair of shoes and reach his full potential. But listen to me. David only reached his full potential when he put down Saul's sword and picked up his own sling. And some of you are wearing the wrong shoes, but you're never going to reach your full potential unless you put your own shoes on. See, David, he saw the sword. Oh, that sword is so sharp. It's so good. That guy can preach so well, and they look so appealing. But David understood that if he had gone into battle with Saul's sword, something he was not skilled with, something that God had not called him to use, he would have died in battle. But he understood that if he went into battle with his own shoes, his thing that God called him to use, he would slay Goliath and one day be crowned king. But what if he had listened to Saul? What if he had listened? Well, what is your life going to look like if you keep listening to the people around you? And stop denying who God has made you to be. And stop denying your gifts. But what if instead we started repenting? Lord, I'm so sorry for insinuating and living a life that says, God, you must have did something wrong when you made me. There's nothing wrong with the way that God made you. The only thing wrong with you is the shoes that you're wearing. And my friends, let me tell you, it's time we kick off those shoes. It's time we start being who God created us to be, putting on our own shoes and saying, Lord, Father, I'm thank you for the gifts that you've given me. I'm thank you for the personality that you've given me, and I'm thank you that you made me like nobody else. Because there are people in this world who are lost, who are dying and going to hell. And they're not interested in anybody else, but God has sovereignly ordained it that they're interested in you. Sometimes I think that it's crazy that Billy Graham didn't reach the whole world. And why didn't he? Was it because he wasn't skilled? Was it because he couldn't preach? Of course not, he's Billy Graham. No. It's simply because there are people who weren't interested in him, but they're interested in you. Forgo, I think of worship leaders. Some people may not like when Kim Walker leads worship, but they'll come to see you any day. Or Shelby or Bar Fazio. Some people may not like Picasso's, what I don't even know anything about art. Picasso's paintings, but they like yours and they're interested in you. And you're only going to reach those people when you decide to be who God has made you to be. Otherwise, those people are going to remain lost. Because you're never going to come around, because you're going to keep coming around with someone else's shoes. And it's never going to work. See, the problem today with our churches is you got people who God made to be hands, and they're trying to be feet. You got churches full of people who God made them to be feet, and they're trying to be hands. You got people running around like this. Running around with hands in their feet, you know? They think, you know what? I don't think I make a really good hand, but I'm just going to be a foot. It's gonna be a foot today. I feel like getting a foot today. Is that gonna work? Of course not. That's never gonna work. And just like you, you're never gonna reach your full potential if you stop denying who God has made you to be.
That's right.
David understood, I'm never gonna be able to kill Goliath with a sword, but man, I'm gonna do a great job with a sling. And if God has called you to wear a sling, don't you dare go on a battle with a sword. Just don't do it. Don't do it. My friends, what would our churches look like today? What would the people in front of me today look like if we decided, you know what, Lord, I'm going to be grateful that you made me a hand, and I'm going to be the best hand that I can be.
Right.
Lord, I'm grateful that you made me a foot, and I'm going to be the best foot I possibly can. I'm going to be who I am to the fullest potential. Because let me tell you something, there are some marathon runners standing before me, but you're never going to be able to run as fast as you can. You're never going to be able to run your race because of the shoes that you're wearing that are hindering your ministry. You're never going to be able to run that marathon because your shoes, it's simple, but we forget sometimes that you can't run if your shoes don't fit.
Right.
You may be able to walk, but you're never going to be able to run. And that's what I want us to understand today, that God is calling you to be not to the person to your left, not the person to your right, but He's calling you to be the person sitting in your seat. He's calling you to be you. And you're never going to reach your full potential if you keep looking to the left, looking to the right, looking at other people and saying, God, I wish I was like them. Your ministry will be forever hindered until you finally accept who you are, accept your gifts, your talents, and your personality, and start using them for the kingdom. And I want to close with this. We're all familiar with the Nike sign, if you put it up. The Nike logo. And this motto, just do it. In our generation, we've kind of fallen into that lie that we need to just do it. Just do it like this, or just do it like that, and then finally be all right. Just do it like this, just do it like that, and finally be effective. But I'm here to tell you that my prayer and my hope is that from now on, when you see this logo, from now on when you put the shoes, you won't be reminded of the just do it. But you'll be reminded that God has called you to be exactly who He's called you to be. He's called you to put on your own shoes, and you can switch it, and to just be you. Thank you.